Is Gray being silly? Hi, silly girl. Hi. Hi, silly girl. Hi. Silly thing. We frisky? Are you frisky? Well, Don and I are headed on a little excursion today. Thank you, Donnie.
You're welcome, pretty girl.
So Hickory is where we'll be supercharging today. Either there or Greensboro. Yeah, the supercharger in Hickory is 168 miles away. And the Hickory Aviation Museum where we're headed is 175 miles away. We would get there with 15%, but we plan on driving around up there a little bit. So we probably are going to charge on the way to the museum because we have time. We have plenty of time to do that. And that way we can drive around as much as we want. We won't have to regret not charging on the way into the area. So it used to be when we would want to go to Greensboro or go through Greensboro, we'd have to go up Highway 55 and then get on I-40 and come through RTP, and it was just inefficient or long. It was not a great route. But now that we have this wonderful 421 that kind of lets us take the back roads out of our house and kind of go at a diagonal up to Greensboro, it's a much more fun drive, less stressful than being out there on I-40 with all that other traffic, and it's a pretty day. So we're sitting here talking energy. Don's got him a new book, and we're enjoying the view. Well, when you hear about Colonial Pipeline in the news, this is a sight in our landscape I could do without seeing.
Right.
We're just making the turn through Greensboro on our way out the other side toward Hickory. Right. Don and Ruby are having lots of fun on autopilot coming here south of Winston-Salem. All these trucks merging in from the right, and Ruby wanting to, you know, get left away from traffic, and let's just say it leaves a little bit for us to talk about while we're driving down the road. What did autopilot do this time?
Well, she's doing all right. It's just, you know, the big thing is the car zooming up on the left, and when she wants to get over, you know, she's just, you know, that's like Ruby. I said, come on, sweetie, there's Alexa zooming up, and she just not wanting to, and then she gets over and does the little half dance.
Right, the whole if you're gonna go, go.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's basically, I think the summary that we would like to pass on is if you're gonna go, go. Don't think about it for 5. She drives like she's a 16-year-old that, you know, is learning how to trust changing lanes.
You know, part of this current Twitterverse is Elon saying that there's no refresh coming. All along, I've always thought the right answer for Tesla has been to actually reduce the price of the Model S and the X as things get their efficiencies and production gets smoother. You know, in a perfect world where you didn't have to worry about investors and margins and all this stuff, you would simply cut the price of the car, because the thing that's stopping the adoption of electric vehicles absolutely isn't the feature set. It's that $80,000-$100,000 you got to lay out. That's the problem. So I would prefer them to cut the price, but there's a myriad of reasons why you can't do that. One of which is when somebody has already paid $100,000 and then you go back, you know, 2 years later and you buy the same car for $80,000, they're going to be upset. So that's part of the problem, you know, the resale value of the existing fleet. But what he can do is incrementally increase the content of the car, improve the value. You get way more car for the same money, and that's the route that Tesla's going, in my opinion.
So I had noticed that our efficiency was really good today, but another thing I've noticed along with that is now our arrival at the Aviation Museum is at 24% battery and not 15% battery. So that gives us a little something more to ponder about charging on the way in or the way out. So number one, you can bring up the sketch pad and play while the driver is driving. It's not a disabled function, even though we're not in park. See, Don's driving. And during the daytime it comes up white, and at nighttime it comes up black. So thus my confusion last night when I was expecting it to be white and then it wasn't. Cool. So I'm understanding a little better today. I can color pick. I can go into the circle here and just kind of choose a color instead of the, you know, just pick a color. And then, yeah, there is a fill also. So I know we botched that demo yesterday. We didn't mean to.
We?
Well, you did try to help a few times.
Okay.
That's the best I could do, especially while Don was driving. Don's driving straight, but you know, even every little bump makes your finger go. I want to try it with this very fine stylus I have at the house that I've used to do some Photoshop style work on my cell phone, and see if it'll work, and see if that improves the fine detail you can do. I said publish just to see what it would do, and it says, are you sure you want Tesla to critique your artistic masterpiece? No, the world isn't ready for my art. Yes, I am an artist. I am saving my kitty cat. So I noticed out here today that some of these tractor trailers have a certified cleaned idle sticker up on the cab, and I really didn't know what that meant, and Don wasn't sure either. I guess maybe we've heard Bjorn talk about the fact that some places in Europe you're not allowed to idle trucks at all, obviously to reduce emissions and because they're running diesel. But so I looked it up, and it says they either have to have technology that cuts off the engine after 5 minutes of idling automatically, or they have to use some sort of nitrogen oxide mixture where there won't be more than 30 grams per hour. So that the diesel engine emits this low NOx limit, it can idle indefinitely. Yeah, we're really seeing a lot of these stickers out here today. So I don't know if that 30 grams is really that much low. I mean, it didn't put it in perspective, right? Like, what's the normal idling amount on a vehicle that's not clean idle certified? So I don't know how good that is, but I guess it sounded like an attempt to keep, you know, diesel engines from idling for an hour to keep somebody air conditioned. So we decided to bypass the supercharger because, like I said, we're going to get there with over 20%. It's at 22 currently. Also closes at 3 p.m. Which we didn't realize, but it is a free thing, and there's a couple other things we were going to do while we're up here too. So that still should be plenty of time for us to view the museum. But we just decided not to stop on the way past. Aside, what happens when you charge on the way in and then you drive around a whole lot is you end up charging twice instead of once, which I think is sort of what we found out up in Mount Airy. Too. So we're here at the airport. There's a small traffic control tower, and then off in the distance you can see some mountains. You can see airplanes. So there is a museum here, and that's why we're here. So we are here at the Hickory Regional Airport, and the museum is just kind of on the other side. The Curtiss Wright J65. So we had a airplane return to RDU yesterday due to a Delta plane due to an engine fire. Returned on one engine. It was scary for the people on board for sure. All the aviation guys were quick to point out there was no problem flying the plane with one engine. That was some small solace to the people watching it burn as they returned, though. Well, Johnny probably would have thought this was pretty cool, but you know, when he got back next week from his trip, he's going to want to hang on his computer and rest for a few days. So, oh, good, you're home today. We're leaving for a car trip tomorrow. That probably wasn't going to cut it. The four forces: lift, drag, weight, and thrust. Bernoulli's equation. Total pressure equals static pressure plus dynamic pressure. This is a panorama, as Don points out, done the old school stitching style. That's funny. Let's says the Hickory Aviation Museum and restored warplanes on our tarmac are presented to you through the volunteerism of Sabre Society members of Hickory, North Carolina, a local area resident and corporate donations.
Developed in 1944 as reciprocal engine and propellant. That jet engine.
Well, Donnie, HUD displays have come a long way.
They do use these. NOAA has a couple of these. As a matter of fact, you probably see them on the news tonight. If you look at the hurricane.
Right.
Same airframe. Ex-Navy, former Navy.
Made. It has a reciprocating prop engine in the front. It has a jet engine in the rear.
Huh.
Yeah.
No.
P3, made by Lockheed Martin, 4-engine turboprop. Its primary mission is anti-submarine warfare. Looking for bad guy submarines. When the Soviet Union had submarines, that was the primary mission, and they used extensively in Afghanistan and Iraq for intelligence, surveillance, and reconnaissance over land. They just repurposed the airframe. Added a lot of new cool stuff that this does not have. This is still the ASW flavor. But these airframes have been in use for a very long time. This particular aircraft will be 50 years old on August the 28th of this year.
Wow.
Flew in here about 18 months ago under its own power. Perfectly functional airplane. And they did things to it so it would not fly. So they don't want anybody fooling around with these things for obvious reasons.
There goes that.
Yeah. So I'll tell you everything you need to do to fly it today, but it just won't work.
Won't work. Yeah, that's good. That's good.
Typical mission in this airplane, 10 hours. You start out your day with a 3-hour pre-flight, 10-hour flight, 2-hour post-flight. Pretty long day.
Wow.
That was every time you went anywhere, that was your day. Because of the 10-hour flight time, you had to take care of some creature comforts. So you have a galley in the back. It's got a refrigerator. You can take a walk back there and take it. Just only 6 people max at a time here. Just for the weight and balance, we don't want to sit this down.
Oh, sure. Don't want it to get up. Yeah, makes sense.
Yeah. It's got a refrigerator there. It's got a convection oven, liquid container, and the ever-present coffee pot.
Yeah, I bet.
The primary mover of this whole airplane is that coffee pot. The head is right here, home of the $600 toilet seat. If any remembers that.
Yep.
That
Military $600. Yep.
kerfuffle about 20 years ago.
Or 30.
Maybe it was even longer.
The coffee pot.
There's 2 beds back there, 2 racks. Those are for the off-duty pilot, one for the off-duty pilot,
up
one
there
for the
too.
off-duty flight engineer. There's 3 guys required to fly the airplane. We have 5 on board. 1 relief for the pilot, 1 relief for the flight engineer. Always want to have fresh people and at least 1 fresh person up there of each one of those flavors to make sure that the aircraft is flown safely. That is the extent of the creature comforts on the airplane.
I'm sure.
Yeah, right in this area, this was the ordnanceman station. That was his seat on takeoff and landing, and that's an aft observer seat. Those windows are bubble windows. You can stick your head in them a little bit, and you can just about see straight down, which really helps out when you're doing surface search, looking for a survivor from a boat accident, or when they were looking for that MH370, the airliner, the Malaysian airliner that went missing. If you look in those pictures, it was this airframe mostly that you got the pictures from. You can see people at these windows, especially up at the front. When they looked out the window, you could see the engine, the number 1 engine, usually not functioning because they shut down the engine routinely just to save gas. Because you want to be out there 10 hours, you want to have as much gas as possible to get back to where you came from. Maximum endurance in this airplane is about 16 hours. 16 hours, you are out of gas. You better be where you were going.
So there's no air refueling on these? Or
No, this is not air refuel. Strictly land-based.
Okay.
Yeah, always took off or landed from a shore station. These things fly all over the world, flown by about 12 other nations. They're still redoing these things, refurbishing these things. Right down in Greenville, South Carolina, Lockheed's got a big rework facility. They just pumped out about half a dozen of these things. Brand new wings, brand new tails, brand new interiors, and electronics. Almost a brand new airframe. And that was for Taiwan. Now, when you look for submarines, of course, you can't see them on the surface, so you got to listen for them. The only way you can listen is something called a sonobuoy. I don't know if anybody's familiar with that.
I've heard of
term.
them.
Just what we've heard outside here.
Yeah.
I've never heard of it.
Okay, well, this is not a sonobuoy. This is the case the sonobuoy came in. Just to give you an idea of the size of these things. And they're just ever so slightly smaller than this. And if you look below on the bottom of the airplane, there's 48 holes.
Into those places.
And that have numbers on them, and then you have these there's 4 other holes for a total of 52. 48 holes are preloaded on the ground with these things.
Okay.
And you also have 36 extras inside.
Yeah.
So if there was a problem with the stuff on the outside, electrical problem, or you ran out of them, dropping 48 buoys was routine.
Okay.
And they are a one-time use
One
thing.
time. That's what I was going to ask. Yeah.
Yep, one time, selectable life. The longest ones were like 8-hour buoys. When you're tracking a moving target, 8-hour buoys not a great help. I kind of forget why, in fact, we even use an 8-hour buoy. I think it might have been like a bathy thermograph buoy to take a look at sea surface temperatures. And temperatures down to about 1,000 feet.
So these would float on the surface more or less, or designed to sink slowly?
No, they float on the surface. The bottom is the microphone, the hydrophone, and the wires.
Okay.
Middle is the battery. Top is the transmitter and the antenna.
Okay.
It had retarding fins that slow it down so when it impacts the water it doesn't destroy itself. And they have a little chip in there that's a timing chip, and there's a fusible plug on the outside.
Okay.
Now to light off the battery, there's a hole in it. Salt water comes in, lights off the battery. It's a saltwater battery.
Okay.
When you want to scuttle a buoy after a predetermined time, this chip says time's up, sends a pulse to a heat fusible soluble plug, melts the plug, fills with water, and sinks at that predetermined time. We want you to track it, go take a look. So you start off with what they call a barrier.
Were they just acoustic, or did they ping, or?
3 different flavors.
Okay.
One is strictly listening, passive.
Right.
One is listening, passive, but with a directional feature where you could get a directional point to a selected noise source.
Okay.
And that source was selected up here in the acoustic station.
Okay.
So it could give you a strobe or a line of position to a target. You get 2 buoys in contact, and
Yeah,
you
you
cross.
triangle it,
That's where your target is.
Okay.
Third flavor was an active buoy. Put it in the water, starts pinging like Run Silent, Run Deep, the old movie. You know, a little ping, and it sounds when you get an echo from that thing, it's just like that. You get an up Doppler or down Doppler echo, telling you whether the target's coming towards you or going away from you. They were only a 30-minute buoy, because
Yeah.
as soon as you put in a pig, that submarine's going to take off,
Yeah.
and he's not going to be anywhere near that buoy in 30 minutes. He's going to be in the next county somewhere.
So cost of these things, or?
Excuse me, I never really, these were about $300 a pop back in the 70s.
Yeah, sure.
We had a couple that were about $1,500 a pop that were special buoys, calibrated. And today I don't know.
Yeah, I
what they
understand.
cost.
Yeah.
Yeah, my era was the 70s to the 90s. And then I retired in 1991. But I flew these things for 15 years from 71 to 1986. All on the East Coast, all in A's and B's. This is a C model. Interior configuration's a little different. Function of all the stations is the same. Airframe is the same.
Is this the same airframe that they fly into the hurricanes?
Yes.
I thought it was.
Yeah, it sure is. And they're all ex-Navy airplanes. None of these were built for NOAA or anybody else, or the customs people. Customs and Border Protection fly a bunch of these airplanes, and a lot of them have that radome on the top.
Right. So this is the one that, what was it at the beginning of the bushes, the Chinese forced down off the coast of China?
Yeah, that was an EP3.
Okay.
E being electronic.
Okay.
And it was strictly an intelligent gathering.
Right, that's right.
This doesn't have any of those. Well, I shouldn't say any. It doesn't have near the capability.
Yeah, but that was that was definitely high-tech intelligent type gathering.
But airframe is the same. The only difference, that thing's got a big fat radome on the bottom where the bomb bay is here, and this airplane is a big radome. There's a big, very sensitive radar that's in that airplane that this airplane does not need for its mission. You come forward this way. These buoys, you want to shoot them out through the bottom of the airplane. You have these 3 chutes here. These are called the pressure chutes. You can do it from altitude. If you want to do it, usually 10,000 feet.
Okay.
Is where you started out at. And you can keep the airplane pressurized. Put a buoy in here, close the door. There's another second door below.
Oh yeah.
And open that door, you can shoot it out. If you were at low altitude, the airframe depressurized, you can open that free fall chute, labeled appropriately free fall chute.
Right.
If you open that up, you'll see the parking lot below. It's just a hole in the bottom of the airplane.
Free fall.
You free fall, and there's certain things that you would have in the airplane and shove them out there if you're usually low altitude. This airplane spends a lot of its life down at 200 feet over the water.
Sure. That makes sense. So
Yeah.
it wouldn't be pressurized at that.
But you depressurize the airplane, and that's when you are simulating an attack or taking photographs of some target, surface target, that they designated that they wanted intelligence on. Used to be a lot of ships going to Cuba once in a while. We photographed everything that was on the deck of that ship so they knew what they were taking. I have some nice home photos of stuff that was going to Cuba. Yeah, I'm a big guy waiting. Also, out that chute, if you saw a surfaced Soviet submarine, usually a diesel boat in the Mediterranean Sea, and you knew that guy was going to be there, you were scheduled to take pictures of it, you would usually bring along some American magazines, stuff it in one of these containers, out the free fall chute.
Right.
Pass by that submarine, shove it out the bottom, they deploy a little rubber boat, and they come over and they get it and they wave at you and make it. Because those poor guys,
Yeah, they got
in the Soviet Navy, submarine Navy, it was not a pleasant experience for those guys. So we try to be as nice to them as we could. Recognizing we'd blow them up if we had to. Right here, there's places here, parachutes. Each crew member had a parachute. Pre-flighted every time you go flying. If you had an in-flight problem, open that door, jump out of the airplane. To my knowledge, never has been used. Other than SEALs need for training, they would come to us every once in a while and say, "Hey, can we go flying? Can we jump out of your airplane?"
Yeah.
We say, "Sure," because they needed a periodic qualification and jumping out of airplane.
Yeah.
Sure.
That's the only time that's ever been done, to my knowledge.
Yeah, well, those guys like to take risks.
Yeah. But come forward here, you got overwing emergency exits. Those are also used on pre-flight to go out and take the plugs out of the engine, intakes and exhausts. You got life rafts here. Over here there's a 7-man life raft. 3 of them usually on board, or a crew of 12 normally. Each person was assigned a place in a specific life raft. You didn't want to put 12 guys in 14 capacity life rafts. That gets really cozy real quick. So they put the 3rd one. This airplane can carry a lot of stuff. I know personally it'll carry wine, beer, furniture, marble, animals, a boat. Carried a boat once. Anything that could get through the main cabin door, you could haul. This thing here is the main load center. This is where all the electrics happen. 3 generators in the airplane plus 1 in the APU. All of the other electrical distribution starts here and goes throughout the airplane. There's inverters here and voltage filters and all kind of stuff.
400 or?
Primary is 400 volt cycle for the power and 24 volt power for the relays.
Right.
For the, as I say, control power is 24 volts and I forget the nomenclature now.
Sure.
It's been a long while. But 400 hertz power to rest of that. Okay, come on up here. Yeah, don't be afraid to come on up here unless... This station here is the acoustic processing station. Any noise you hear from those sonobuoys was processed through the equipment in all these equipment bays and displayed on these two green screens. Every source in the water makes
big
noise.
one?
Had two radars, fore and aft, to be a 360-degree coverage. It has an infrared detecting system screen, which is like an infrared TV. There's a unit in the front, the nose of the airplane, a turret, like an upside-down R2-D2. Comes down through the bottom of the airplane, and looks around, look up and down. You're in the infrared spectrum.
McDonnell Douglas,
Lockheed Corporation, now Lockheed Martin built it.
Sure.
They built, it's on the thing down there, I think 757 of these things.
Yeah.
Most built by Lockheed. About 100 were built by Kawasaki.
Okay.
The Japanese bought these airframes with the stipulation you're going to build them in Japan, and they built about 100 of them there. Let's see, come on forward here, a little bit more.
He said 737 is going to replace this.
Didn't think so.
And he said it's never hot like this North Carolina heat because you have to keep the electronics cold. We get that. So what did he call those tubes again? Those are sonar buoys. And here are the 48 that come preloaded. 36 spare up there.
Yeah, these are preloaded, so they drop these first.
Right.
And if they need
ran out,
had some kind of failure here, then they can manually launch them from inside.
Yeah. And I did ask him, and he said that his role started out navigator, but then was the tactical person. It was hard to hear up there with the fan. I believe he told us that 18 countries are using this aircraft.
Still today.
Still today, yep. And I guess the original P1, P2 is from the early 60s. This one is a P3, it came along a little bit later. Well, that is a big aircraft. Well, you know, we've been in quote-unquote the weather Hurricane Hunter aircraft at the air shows before, but never with that much detail or time or attention to explaining that we had today, which was really awesome. It's quite windy out here today, but you know, they've got some serious runway here. It's not tiny. I mean, it's a real runway. plugged in Rhodhiss, North Carolina. There's a dam up there. I wanted to take pictures of the dam. John Daly was our tour person today, our knowledgeable person, and he was very nice to listen to us ramble on about Ruby and electric cars for a few minutes at the end of our conversation.
Well, he asked a couple questions.
He did. He knew a little bit about it. He was interested. So, you know, never lose a chance to bring up the electric car with techie people. For sure. I had planned to go into that little parking area to get the picture I want, and that's land is for sale, and they've got the parking lot closed off, which I guess they don't want people fishing over there. But I'm a little frustrated that it's a perfectly good parking area that's safe to go look at the dam, and I can't go over there. So Don's gonna drive me back across. The dam is really pretty. It's everything I thought it would be. So we parked at the town park, which is on the south side of the bridge. And you can't quite see the dam from here, and the trail is just kudzu. It doesn't go any further.
But you can't see the power station up the top of the hill.
You can absolutely see the power station up there. And we're getting rained on, but that's okay. We were really hot after standing in the airplane. It's a beautiful view. And I'm sure at times there's, you know, nice wildlife and stuff to see down there too. So this is Rhodhiss or Rhodhiss. I have to ask a local how they pronounce it, North Carolina. It is named for John M. Rhodes and George B. Hiss. They joined together to build a cotton mill on the Upper Catawba River in Caldwell County. With a $500,000 investment, they helped construct the village of Rhodhiss, which included a horseshoe-shaped dam, electric generator, mill, general store, and worker houses. Rhodhiss Manufacturing Company opened in 1902, with Rhodhiss incorporating as a town in 1903. Within the next decade, the town of Rhodhiss would expand into Burke County with a new steel bridge spanning the Catawba River to connect the town together. That's the bridge we went over. An interesting fact, though, is that the U.S. flag that astronauts Neil Armstrong and Buzz Aldrin erected on their first visit to the moon in 1969 was woven at Burlington Mills in the town of Rhodhiss. Glenn Price, a lifelong Rhodhiss resident, was the manager at the time. In front of us is the boat ramp on the upper side of the dam. You can launch your boat over there, and there's a lot of fishing and other recreation that happens here at the lake. But the Rhodhiss hydroelectric power plant generated electricity for North Carolina textile mills in the early part of the 20th century. Says it is still growing strong today, almost 100 years later. Duke Energy's Rhodhiss hydroelectric station on the Catawba River in Burke and Caldwell counties was one of 3 Duke Energy hydro stations constructed in the mid-1920s to meet a commitment by James B. Duke, one of Duke Energy's founders, to provide electricity to support the area's rapidly expanding textile industry.
Right, I would tell you right now this thing is going. I can see the water kind of bubbling, coming out from behind the dam, so it's probably flowed through the penstock and through the turbines. Obviously here it's cloudy and rainy, it's 82, but very far from here is probably peak power demand. I mean, it's 3:24 in the afternoon, so this is hydropower is one of the its greatest assets, is this ability to increase and decrease its output on a moment's notice. So when they need extra power, they can just simply turn it up and the hydro plants come up to speed instantly. And if they don't need so much, they can dial it back down. It slows down. It's faster than natural gas and other forms. This is the quickest that can respond to the varying load throughout the day. So hydro has a high value because they call it the dispatchability of power. This is a very dispatchable form of power. Now, I don't know that this particular plant is capable of doing that great, but generally speaking, hydro plants have a high degree of dispatchability.
Yeah, it says the powerhouse here contains 3 generating units, which are the original ones, each capable of producing 8.5 megawatts of power. It says while some equipment upgrades have occurred over the years, much of the generating equipment is original and dates to the mid-1920s.
Yeah, 8.5 a piece is not, those are not large. A typical generator unit at a gas turbine plant would be, of course, there'd be multiple ones, but there'd be 600 megawatts. So 600 megawatts apparently is the sweet spot now for generators. Bigger than that, there's inefficiencies, and smaller than that, there's inefficiencies. But obviously, this dam cannot produce that amount of energy to turn such big generators. So I'm sure it can easily handle this. Sounds like upwards to 25 megawatts total output from this plant.
Right. It says the lake provides water to the towns of Granite Falls, Lenore, Morganton, and Valdez, and that, you know, Duke Energy is providing boat access. They made a couple of improvements in 2001 to meet federal flood regulations. But largely it's unchanged, and it's considered a historical, it's registered as a historical landmark.
Right.
It's beautiful. I mean, it is. It's gorgeous.
Yeah, well, this is the dam that we found out about at the Duke Homestead. They had a picture of this dam from back in the 20s or something, long time ago when it was built.
Yep. Well, that's because the Duke family helped with it. The rain's let up a little bit. We're on the other side of the dam now. You can see the spillway. We're on Duke Power Road, but you're not going to get anywhere down there. So we're up at the top of the hill now. You can get as far as the substation. You can hear fans humming over there. So we're in historic downtown Hickory now, and this is the old Hickory station, which was the real train station. And I want to get a picture of it here on the back side, Nani, because that's the fun side. Oh, you can tell the brick's old. It's got the little window that comes out there, which I've learned is often where the ticketing or telegraph was. Yep, the rest of downtown's over there across the street, and the train track is still here. Yep, see? Hickory Station. It's very, very pretty. It's a little bigger than the one in Fuquay. But I think it's great that, you know, these restaurants are keeping them from being knocked down. I guess I best get inside. Don says we would have, for the fun of it, looked for a fast charger downtown somewhere or something, but with the storm, nah. So they have a little store here on this end where you can buy all kinds of beer. I bet it's Aviators in here somewhere. Wouldn't surprise me a bit. I don't know if these guys make their own beer or not. I didn't study up on it. Oh, cheesecake. Death by chocolate cheesecake. What's this one? Oh, tiramisu. And coconut something. And Carnegie cheesecake. Oh, look at on this side too, huh? Wow, I like that thing with the cherries on it. Oh, table so I can see. There? Yes, sure. Yeah, you can tell this part out here is now enclosed, but was once where people waited. You can see the structural stuff up high, and then the outside brick wall, and then when they enclosed it, they put all this pretty glass, so you've got a nice view. Now, what did you get?
Cajun chicken sandwich on a house-made roll.
And I got a Cuban with onion straws. Oh, they have a welcome to Hickory mural.
Yep. Taekwondo.
All right.
Martial arts.
I'm ready to go do some kicking. Wish I could. So we're sitting at 37 miles and it's just 3.6 miles over to the Hickory supercharger. Don learned that on the app, if you go to charging, it will show you all the superchargers in your area, and if you click on one of them, it will send the directions to the car. I do think if Tesla combined with Electrify America would get to post on these gas station exit signs, it would really help people to know that there are that many options for charging out there as a consideration. Oh yeah, I'm going from here. Oh, there's a charger again. Oh, there's a charger again. That's pre-facelift, I think, and a Model X, and they're both white.
So let's see. He's in 4A.
Not plugged in on the end there. Wow, they got a California tag on their car. Yeah, we're getting all these messages. Cabin overheat protection disabled, Sentry mode disabled. It's not raining too bad here, and it's not thundering or lightning at all. Don's out plugging in. So we're at a pretty low state of charge at 29 miles. We ought to get good speed. Maybe, hopefully. So we're considering, but haven't decided yet, to just go when we have enough juice to get to Greensboro and pull back off at Greensboro. Greensboro is a Sheetz, and it's also an easy on, easy off, don't have to go out of our way to get to it charger. So I would consider it at least for that. Obviously, if we charge 80, 90%, something like that, we've got plenty to get home. I let Don sort it out. So our arrival for Greensboro is 5%. We really haven't been sitting here hardly any time at all. And we're still getting 108 kilowatts, but it's down from what it was. It was 120 just a few minutes ago. We were down below 90 kilowatts, 94 kilowatts for a while, and then the Model S next to us unplugged, even though we're not sharing a pedestal. And we've gone back up 117 here. So We sort of thought we were ramping down, and then it ramped back up again.
Yeah, I've seen it down to like 94 kilowatt hours, and now it's all the way back 150.
Don's unplugging. I mean, it's a 86-mile trip, and we've got 147 miles of rated range. Says we'll get there with 16%. That should be fine. So Don removed the Greensboro supercharger and put in our home address, thinking maybe it would tell us to stop in Greensboro or possibly Burlington. And instead it says go back here for 20 more minutes. Yeah, Don said, I know she's going to figure it out. Did she figure it out?
Yes, she figured it out.
Took her a while. Yeah, Greensboro supercharger right there. All right. We're out of all the rain. We are in between Winston-Salem and Greensboro. We're 11 miles from the Greensboro supercharger, which we did decide to stop at. So I had a nice nap. All right, we're here. Don's plug it in. This is another Sheets. We won't have to stay particularly long. I think it's estimating our charge time at 25 minutes.
Right. Make sure it ramps
20
up.
minutes now. We currently have 58 miles of estimated range. Getting good speed.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So with a low state of charge, we're picking up over 140 kilowatts again. And it ramped up quick this time, unlike at the Hickory where it took a while to ramp up. We've got a really pretty blue Model S here at the chargers with us, but that's the only other Tesla currently here or charging. I went to the bathroom and Don was talking to the owners of this brand new Model 3, and we're ready to go, but we're socializing instead. Yeah, stopping at this Sheets is a no-brainer because it really is right on and right off the interstate. The family in the blue S is on their way from Orlando back to their home in Ottawa, Ontario, Canada. And they were having a little snack over there by the supercharger. You did good socializing with everybody, Donnie. You did good.
Thank you, sweetie.
So we've got 178 miles of rated range, which is much more than we need to get home now.
Yep.
We took Highway 64 across Jordan Lake and then I-540 to get home. We don't do the back road at night. All those trees and too many deer out there. It's just kind of a hazard, especially this time of the year. We're seeing some cloud to ground lightning off in the distance that looks pretty serious, but it's not raining where we are. We'll be home in a few minutes. We had a lot of rain here this afternoon. Tux and Gray have greeted me, and I will be finding everybody else here in a minute. I'm gonna get you fresh food, buddy. Right. Everyone on the back side of the house is accounted for and happy. And there's Panther. Good boy. I thought instead of showing you screenshots from TeslaFi, I would just show you what I see when I go into TeslaFi to look at our trip today. So let's first start with where we went. We started out in Fuquay-Varina and took the back roads over through Pittsboro and Siler City, taking 421 to get up to Greensboro and then cutting over to Hickory. This was the suggested route. And in and around Hickory, we went to the Aviation Museum, which is a little bit north and west of the supercharger, which is about here. And then we drove up to Rhodhiss Dam and crossed the bridge several times and back and forth. And then we were back into downtown Hickory to eat, and then actually stopping at the supercharger on the way back out of town. On the return trip, we went mostly the same way as we came over, except for a little bit of a deviation here in Greensboro where we stopped at the supercharger. And then on the trek back to the house, we stayed on the more main roads, taking I-540 toll road back down to 55 back to Fuquay-Varina. So it was a pretty good clip today. Let's look at how many miles that amounted to. I haven't looked yet. I don't know. 380.66 miles you drove today, Donnie.
Cool.
That was a good clip. Says we used rated miles of 386.45. I know Don was watching the efficiency and realized that it was pretty close to 100% today, and sure enough, it's at 98.5%. Sorry that you missed 100 by just a little bit, Donnie. So time driving was 7 hours and 25 minutes. It really didn't seem that long, but that's what it was. The average watt hours per mile was 314. Had we had to pay for that, it would have been $9.57. And our temps were averaged out a little lower than we've seen lately because there was quite a good bit of rain and cloud cover today. So we did not charge on the way over there, but we did kick off charging at the house this morning before we left. That was for I'm looking here. I thought it was what are you trying to say?
The red one.
Right, it's the red one. I don't know why I was looking at the parked instead of the charging. Excuse me. So we were plugged in for about an hour from 9 o'clock to 10 o'clock, 52 minutes. And we went from just shy of 80%, 78%, up to 90 point. No, when we started out at 78% and we ended at 84%. So we just put in a little bit extra when we for sure made up our mind that the weather looked okay today and decided to go ahead and head on out. Well, we knew we didn't need to be too high because we have so many options going in that direction. We could have stopped at Burlington, Greensboro, or Hickory. So we had lots of options today. So we headed straight to the Aviation Museum, our first stop of the day, because they closed at 3 p.m. We got there a little bit after 1 and at around 1:20 p.m. And we had plenty of time to look around the airport and take the tour and listen to a gentleman that flew in the aircraft that we toured, and that was good. And then we drove up to the dam at the little town of Rhodhiss. And that was just a 15-minute drive north of the airport. That was no big deal. And we were back and forth up there over the bridge and trying to get a good view of the dam on the south side and trying to get a good view of the dam on the north side. We were stopped and moving around up there. And then we came back into downtown Hickory, which is where we ate at the old Hickory station. So that was a little scary there for a while because we were getting a lot of weather alerts, and one of the weather alerts says that there were ping pong sized hail in one of the cells that was not too far from us. But thankfully, while we ate, all we had was rain and a little bit of a lightning shower. And the restaurant was really close to the Tesla supercharger in Hickory. It was really close. I guess it took us 17 minutes to get there, but it was about 9 miles from downtown over to the supercharger. So We decided not to stay and get a full charge. I mean, we could have charged to whatever the car said and made it home and just done one charging stop. But instead, we decided to test the charging curve and just put in enough to navigate to the Greensboro supercharger. We figured we might want to use the restroom. We knew the Greensboro supercharger was easy on, easy off. So we were only at the supercharger for, let's see, how long were we there? 5:32. No, that's can't be right. That's the park. Here's the charge record. So we were there for 21 minutes. We were there for 21 minutes, so not very long. And you can see that our charging speeds were pretty high. And we started at 10% and left at 50%. Which is what we've been trying to tell people, is you don't have to stay at the supercharger until you have 80, 90, or 100%. You just have to put in enough to get you to the next supercharger. So we practiced what we preached today, and we headed out from there to the Greensboro supercharger. So here, this entry is showing supercharger to supercharger. And in Greensboro, that's the actual driving record, but the charging record in Greensboro shows that we arrived at 7:18 and left at 7:39. So we were there for close to 20 minutes. And I'm going to tell you, at least 5 minutes of that was us shooting a breeze with some other really nice Tesla owners that pulled up and were charging. We could have left sooner. We just were Dawn used the bathroom, I used the bathroom, and we talked, and by the time we were done, the car was ready to go. So we headed out. We started at 23%, we ended at 61%. Again, our charging speed was pretty good while we were there. We did what we wanted it to do, and we only charged at high speeds today, really fast charging. And then we went from the supercharger straight to the house. We didn't have to stop again. That was an hour and 35 minutes from the Greensboro supercharger home, and that's basically what we expected. So Ruby's now plugged in and charging. Time to completion 9 hours and 50 minutes. Because Dawn has the charge rate bumped down, we're only charging at 30 amps when we could. If we really needed to, we could be charging at 40 amps here at our house setup. But so our charging today was a total of supercharging of just shy of 80 kilowatt hours added, 228 miles added, and the Tesla supercharger, if we had been paying, it says estimate is it would have cost us $6.33. Total charging time was 41 minutes, which was split up into two 20-minute sessions, which worked well for us because that let us stretch our leg and use the bathroom and charge the most efficiently that we could have at the higher speeds.